Are you experiencing chronic neck pain? You feel like you're always holding tension in your neck, and no matter how many stretches you do, it just does not seem to resolve it. Well, today we're going to talk about some root causes of neck pain, but also, of course, some solutions for it. Hi, my name is Dr. Ariane Missimer. I'm a functional medicine practitioner, a doctor of physical therapy, registered dietitian, and I have treated so many people with neck pain. And what I'm always looking to find out is what is the underlying cause of neck pain? Let's start with one of the biggest, which is some type of breathing and or airway dysfunction. So meaning we can be in a sympathetic state, meaning we're in that fight or flight state, which means that we're going to be breathing from our neck and shoulders. We breathe 25,000 times a day. So if every breath is coming from here, you can appreciate how tight this is going to be. We can also have an airway dysfunction, which means that there could be a deviated septum, there could be a narrow airway, there could be a jaw, let's say a forward jaw position, we could have poor tongue posture. So there's lots of things that might indicate that there is an airway issue that's contributing to poor breathing throughout the day and potentially at sleep. So this is a really important thing to unpack to make sure that that is not one of your root causes, because it's one of the things that I see over and over again. Number two, although there's not a clear link between posture and neck pain, we want to think about any type of potential compensatory pattern that we have in our body can ultimately lead to some compensation in movement and therefore potentially pain. So for example, if you are sitting at your desk all day like this, right, looking at the computer or the other computer, things like that, we can become over patterned, meaning that if we're always looking over to the left computer screen, then, most likely the tissues are going to adapt to that positioning over time, so they're going to be shorter, and that can potentially contribute to pain. So it doesn't mean that you can look certain ways or put your head in a certain way, but we do want to appreciate that things that we're doing on a regular basis, we might want to look at to see if we could potentially change and put ourselves in a better position. Number three is if you're experiencing any kind of ongoing headaches or migraines, this often can be associated with neck pain. But once again, we want to understand the underlying causes of that. A lot of times that can be associated with jaw clenching, which can be correlated with airway dysfunction. Number four is when the neck is compensating for a lack of stability or motor control, which we refer to as sequencing, timing, and coordination somewhere else in the body. And a great example of that is our core or abdominal area. So it's such a beautiful balance of having the respiratory diaphragm work in synergy with our pelvic diaphragm, and where all of these muscles need to have the right coordination to be able to stabilize our spine so that we can generate force and have optimal movement efficiency in everything that we're doing. Now, if we lack stability in the core, then think something in the body's got to figure out what to do for that. So oftentimes that can be the neck. And so if you are, let's just say, trying to do a core exercise on the ground, and instead of the core really doing what it's supposed to do, you start to get tension and this abnormal tension in your neck. So it's a perfect example of how this could happen. So what can you do about it? Number one is to try to optimize your breathing. So let's talk about some of the key points. First is addressing your tongue position. The resting tongue position should be on the roof of the mouth, gently touching the top teeth. This allows our airway to open so that we can get an optimal breath. We want to think about breathing in through the nose, and I like to think of the cue, instead of breathing straight back, we want to think about breathing up. As you're breathing in, we want to get full expansion in the abdomen. So if we want to think about a 360 breath, so the front of the abdomen, back of the abdomen, side of the abdomen, just getting all of this intra-abdominal pressure, and then as you exhale, our abdomen contracts, our ribs come down. If you feel like you can work on your breathing and improve it over time, that's amazing. If it feels like you're working on it and you really can improve it, then that might be where you might need to look into other options to identify if there is, in fact, some structural airway issue that may need to be addressed. Number 2 is to stop stretching. So oftentimes when we have neck pain, we're stretching. And if we think of it as these muscles, when anything is tight in the body, they are doing exactly what we need at the time. They're protecting us, right? So if there's a lack of stability somewhere else, if breathing is not optimal, then our body's doing what it needs to do to compensate to be able to maintain homeostasis or balance in the body. So we want to be kind to it. If we just take away that compensation, then it might have a temporary fix, but it's not going to have a ongoing fix. So instead of that, I love recommending the salamander. So you've probably seen this in my other videos, but it's worth repeating. This is based on Stanley Rosenberg's work. So you interlace your fingers, bring it behind the back of your head, relaxing your arms. So it's just nice and relaxed here. Arms are down, side bending your upper body, and then looking with your eyes the opposite direction. And you would hold this here for about 30 seconds. You might have a sigh, swallow, a yawn, a sign of relaxation. Come back to center, flip to the other side, eyes the other direction, holding that for 30 seconds. And then before and after you perform this exercise, I would recommend just checking your range of motion. Normally it is an immediate improvement afterwards. Number 3, as I mentioned earlier, is identifying any habitual patterns that you're doing. So is your computer screen over to the left? Can you move it right in front of you? Are you on your phone for hours looking to the right? Right? Just looking at these things that you might be doing all day long and just making some modifications to that. So seeing if you don't need to have perfect posture all day long. I'm not suggesting that, but it might be beneficial to change some of these habits that you're doing for hours and hours a day. Number 4 is going to be to create stability and strength in the rest of your body, of learning how to build a resilient body. And I know that might sound like a lot, but when we think about becoming stronger from the ground up, from our feet up, we can really have the strong connection. We can have a foundation for stability and strength and mobility where our neck doesn't need to compensate all of the time. So I find that whenever there's chronic neck pain, we begin to unpack these things such as optimizing breathing, building stability, building mobility wherever we need it, for example, in the thoracic spine, and then building strength. It's something that really can shift the trajectory of your pain forever, quite frankly. And then last but not least is whenever we have chronic pain, we want to think about a couple of other things. One, is there any systemic inflammation that's occurring? So is there things like foods or hormonal imbalances or chronic stress that all might be playing into this systemic inflammatory response, especially when the pain does not change? And then we also want to think about acute pain versus chronic pain. And chronic pain is when we have central sensitization. So our brain is perceiving this high alert of pain all of the time. And we want to learn how to use nervous system regulation and other strategies to be able to down regulate the nervous system and to be able to welcome pain, recognize pain as information, but be able to shift from that heightened sense to a pain that might be associated with a specific movement pattern, where if it's chronic pain, there is no tissue damage at that point. When there's acute pain, there can be tissue damage. So as always, I hope this helped in just understanding your neck pain a little bit more. And of course, some of the things that you can do for it to begin to change your pain and also, of course, change your health. If this was helpful, make sure you give it a like, give it a share, write a comment. I'd love to hear. And if you need help on your personal journey, please reach out to us to schedule a discovery session. And don't forget to check out our app, the Movement Paradigm app on Apple and Google, which has a variety of programs to make whole body health accessible to everyone.